Behavioral Economics, a presentation brought to you by Ray William Ken and Mitchell. Behavioral economics is a branch of economics that studies the psychology of consumers, businesses, and the government to better understand decision-making and irrationality. Behavioral economics is getting more and more important as conventional economic theories are failing in some economies in the world. This is because they are based on a lot of assumptions, for example, perfect competition, ceteris paribus, perfect consumer computation. The real-world scenario would include a lot of external influences, for examples, cultural values, politics, history, etc. One of the most significant fail over the years is the Japanese economy. Japan's economy was the envy of the world before its so-called lost decade. In the 1970s, Japan produced the world's second-largest gross national product (GNP) after the United States and, by the late 1980s, ranked first in GNP per capita worldwide. But all of it ended in the early 1990s when its economy stalled and it entered its lost decade. Japan has been having a problem of stagflation and deflation for almost 20 years. The country has tried many different policies to rectify this issue. These include lowering Bank of Japan interest rates to negative 0.1% to increase consumer spending and decrease saving incentive. However, the Japanese people have a major issue of cultural influence. Japan currently has an aging population problem, and their tradition is their offspring will take care of the elderly when they're old. Therefore they have a huge incentive to save no matter the reward of interest rates is high or low, leading to the failure of the policies. Nudge theory is an aspect of behavioral economics which is focused on influencing individuals or groups' choices and behavior without directly forcing them or removing other options altogether. The following are some examples of nudge theory. Choice architecture describes how having different options visually placed will make consumers more or less likely to choose that option. For example, schools across the UK wanted to increase the consumption of healthy foods, fruits, nuts, vegetables, etc. so they put them at eye level and made them easily accessible while making the unhealthy foods hard to reach. The result was a huge increase in students choosing the healthier option. Price anchoring describes a method of how putting the price of a business product into perspective, whether in regards to its original price or a competitor's price, could make the product more appealing. For example, the Amazon UK regularly puts the original price of a product crossed out next to the new price of the same product, where in fact the new price is the actual price of that product. Another example is how online retailers in the UK often put the price of their competitors on their website, along with their own prices which are cheaper. This would allow the buyers to put the two prices into perspective and would be more inclined to choose the second. Commitment is when the consumer begins using a certain product or brand, they become committed to it and won't change to another brand product. An example is the famous UK washing soap Fairy. When other well-established washing soap brands came over to the UK, such as Persil and Palmolive, the consumers were already used to using Fairy, so they didn't choose the readily available alternatives, thus resulting in poor sales for them in the UK. Behavioral and also be very effective and influential in policy making. For example, politicians present two options but make one option much more appealing than the other by using framing, which describes how phrasing could affect an individual or a group's choices. This would influence people's decisions, making them more readily accept the policies. For example, smoking kills more than 120,000 people every year sounds more threatening and dangerous than more than 120,000 people every year pass away due to smoking-related diseases. However, behavioral economics could also backfire on policymaking. For example, there is a 16.5% tobacco duty is placed on cigarettes. A lot of anti-smoking campaigns and a lot of alternatives to cigarettes are offered, all to try to reduce the consumption of cigarettes. Despite all this, smokers still continue smoking due to habitual behavior, peer pressure, and addiction, all showing how they act irrational and how government policies have been proven ineffective in this regard. Behavioral economics is the study of the psychology and choice of consumers, businesses, and the government, and nudge theory is a part of behavioral economics used to indirectly influence people's choice. There are many methods of influencing someone's choice, for example, choice architecture, price anchoring, commitment, and framing. Behavioral economics can also be used by policymakers to try to make people more readily accept policies or change their behavior. However, behavioral economics can also act against policymakers, as people tend to act irrational and unpredictable.